Step inside my twisted world, where heroes will collide. Villains aren't the only evil, there are no fucking sides. Every match will test their stats, every loss and win are weighed. Any chance they thought they had could all end up in vain on Combo Breaker.
The end of the world, an event prophesied about by many, many people, and it's ranged from, pissed off gods destroying the planet to nuclear wars. But it seems that everybody's favorite apocalypse is the zombie apocalypse. So where am I going with this, you may be asking yourself? Well, what would happen if I put fiction's most notoriously powerful zombie in a fight against fiction's best zombie slayer? I'm of course talking about today's fighters. Frank West, the photojournalist with a deadly and creative arsenal, and Jason Voorhees, the teenage slayer of Camp Crystal Lake. Jason Voorhees, a previous two-time winner on Combo Breaker, and standing undefeated, and truly one of the strongest horror has to offer, and my personal main other than Leatherface when it comes to Mortal Kombat X. So let's talk powers and arsenal. Jason can regenerate at a somewhat quick rate, allowing him to take ridiculous amounts of punishment and abuse, and if he ever dies, he can actually hypnotize a body into eating his heart, effectively giving Jason a new body. Jason can also create illusions because, horror movies, and he's resistant to soul and mental attacks. He also has extreme heat resistance, like the many, many, many times he's been lit on fire. Like, dear God, the first time it didn't work, the second time it didn't work. Stop trying to light the poor man on fire, you're just making him scarier. He can also teleport, and this is typically how he catches his victims. He also has enhanced super senses, and he has a very, very high pain tolerance. We're talking you can stab, mutilate, punch, nut kick this dude in any way you want, and he'll shrug it off as if nothing happened. And this is mostly due to his undead body. Now, Jason typically carries a machete or an axe, however he's capable of using anything as a lethal weapon, ranging from fence posts to spears to tree branches, or even his bare hands, plus just about anything else he picks up. But Jason's also super fucking strong. He can tear people apart with his bare hands. He can punch through a steel door, stop a car with his bare hands, slash through the human body like a warm knife through butter, impale victims on tree branches, and destroy a construction site. He's also stupidly fast, as he was fast enough to outrun military-grade helicopter machine gun fire bullets, as well as blitz a group of trained soldiers without them even having time to react. And he can catch people running even when they're, completely scared out of their freaking minds, and have shit tons of adrenaline pumping through him. And with his teleportation, he can pretty much get you at any point. He's impossible to shake off your trail. But Jason's also stupid durable. He's durable enough to be shot with a shotgun, fall out of a 2-story building, completely unfazed by it, I add, and he was set on fire multiple times and was completely unaffected. He's also been stabbed, shot by handguns, and so much more. Honestly, there's no good way to fully put down Jason. But Jason is also pretty damn skilled too. He can set up traps and plan multiple murders with large success rates, only failing to kill a select few victims. Jason, however, is not perfect. Enough physical damage or being reminded of his mother will actually stop him in his tracks. And yes, he's actually scared by water, and that's what killed him originally, but he lurks in the water and drowns his victims quite often. Okay, what the fuck is this retcon? Anyway, he is scared of water, despite literally everything else in the movie saying otherwise. Ugh. Hey look, Frank West is back. Right back to Combo Breaker for his third fight. Don't worry, I'll start spacing out Frank West's fights a lot more. I don't want him to turn into, Sans or Spider-Man. Although, for all you people complaining, Nathan Drake has been on here 4 times. That's the most times the fire's shown up so far, so quit complaining about Frank West. So, Frank West doesn't actually have any superpowers. Well, unless you count his endless creativity as a superpower, but I'll touch on that in a second. You see, Frank has learned to treat day-to-day objects like teddy bears, firecrackers, cardboard boxes, and even stuff like squirt guns as lethal weapons. Other than that, he'll obviously use your standard weapons like guns, broadswords, knives, baseball bats, chainsaws, battle axes, katanas, your standard stuff. While those weapons are great and all, they're not quite enough for Frank to survive. So Frank learned an important skill, improvision. And with this amazing creativity, he made some pretty badass weapons. Like his laser sword that's made out of a flashlight and some jewelry, because logically that's how science works. He can also make a Tesla gun he can mix that Tesla gun with his laser to make a laser gun. Yeah, don't even worry, his weaponry gets even more ridiculous, because Frank West is like a Disney Imagineer of death. Don't believe me? Well, allow me to talk more about Frank's badass weapons. Frank has a flamethrower made out of gasoline and a squirt gun. He can also light a cow skull on fire and it allows him to charge through hordes of zombies. He can also, take some knives and put them on some boxing gloves, allow him to make some makeshift Wolverine claws. But I don't think Frank's getting accepted at Professor X's school for youngsters anytime soon. But wait, order now and you'll get the special TV offer of more of Frank's ridiculous weapons. Like the chainsaw paddle, which is a paddle with chainsaws on both ends, allowing him to row himself through hordes of zombies. He also has a shotgun with a pitchfork on it, allowing him to impale his victim and then fire a deadly blast through them. Or if Frank needs a big-ass boom, he can take multiple grenades to a football to make the Hail Mary. They can throw, causing a massive-ass explosion. Oh, but wait, there's even more, like his freeze bomb to freeze opponents, a saw blade launcher, which launches saw blades, a plate launcher, which, launches plates, and an adult toy launcher, and a fucking firework minigun. He also carries even more weapons, like an air horn with the force to shatter skulls, or a super electric guitar that can send out huge ass sound waves to kill zombies. He can also create an electric sledgehammer that acts like Mjolnir, but with a longer handle so you don't look like a dumbass. He also makes a sledgehammer with a fire axe to make the most dangerous weapon ever, the Defiler. Yeah, that weapon has that name for a reason. He also has access to the Mega Man's Mega Buster, Zero's Z-Saber, and Proto Man's Proto Buster and Shield. And Frank's most unexpected tool is his camera. This flash at close range is actually equal to that of a military-grade flashbang, allowing him to stun foes. And while I know this isn't canon, it's demonstrated quite well when you look at it in the Marvel vs. Capcom series, where you can use it to stun an enemy to prolong combos. But he has even more up his sleeve, like his ability to eat and drink just about anything to regain health. Or he can, Speaking of drinking, Frank can actually create stat-boosting smoothies by mixing some drinks. And now we talk about Frank's best equipment, his exosuit and Capcom Heroes costumes. Frank West has an exosuit. Yeah, and it comes equipped with some ridiculous shit like miniguns, missiles, a high-powered vacuum, and more impressively a freeze ray that can launch out freezing ice tornadoes. But Frank's best tool comes from an arcade cabinet of all things. Man, when I do, crouch forward punch, I don't shoot fireballs, but Frank West sure can. Yeah, but anyway, Frank can actually use this machine to gain the costumes, weapons, and abilities of Capcom All-Stars, like Mega Man, where he gains the Mega Buster, or Ryu, where he can shoot Hadokens and do spinning kicks. With the Akuma outfit, he can use the legendary Raging Demon to destroy your soul, and he can use Dante's signature handguns and sword, as well as Morgan from Darkstalker's entire moveset. He also has some moves of his own, like a flip kick to decapitate foes, with power to disembowel a foe, or he can just slam someone's head against the floor so hard it shatters their skull. Also, Frank can throw people and suplex them and even judo flip opponents. Alright, on to feats. Well, Frank is like a fucking powerhouse. He can shatter skulls with his bare hands, decapitate people with kicks, and even disembowel a foe with his bare hands. And he can lift and throw heavy-ass objects like steel shelving very long distances, and he can smash benches and steel shelves with his bare hands. His power only increases when you factor in his guns and air horns that are able... And his power only increases when you factor in things like his guns, or his air horn that can pop zombie heads like grapes, or his laser sword that can cut through zombies like butter, or a laser gun that destroys hordes of zombies in seconds, and just ridiculous amounts of shit. He also has his trusty Mega Buster for extra power, and his exosuit that can allow him to launch cars with a single punch. He's actually super quick too, as he can outrun most survivors and zombies, and even better is when he could catch a train, and even more impressively, he's dodged bullets, missiles, lightning shots, and even laser blasts. But Frank West is also durable as hell. He can actually fall long distances with no issues and just get right back up. He survived hits from survivors with weapons, zombies, and even survived a hit from the blast from a patch, a weapon that casually rips through hordes of zombies. Plus, he survived a TNT explosion, and not to mention, he survived most of his own attacks from most of his own weapons before as well. He's also been awake and fighting for 72 hours straight in the first game alone. That's endurance. Think about it this way, after 2 days of being awake straight, you'll start to hallucinate, and Frank was able to go 3 without any, dip in any sort of energy or mental state. But Frank is also a fucking genius. Using nothing but a flashlight and some jewelry, he made a laser sword. He's made all sorts of other crazy combination weapons, and he can make his own. He can make up his own using nothing but what he finds in the mall. He's covered wars, I mean, honestly. He's also a wrestler and clearly has boxing and MMA skills, as when you put on the boxing and MMA gloves, he shows off incredibly impressive skills with them. But Frank is also human. Enough physical force can put him down for good, and his weapons do have limited ammo and durability. Plus, he's super cocky. Alright, our combatants are set. Let's answer the question of who would come out on top in a battle between the strongest zombie and the best zombie slayer. Frank West is walking through Camp Crystal Lake, looking around and snapping photos, when he's stopped by heavy breathing. He turns to see Jason standing behind him holding his machete. Frank panics and flashes his camera at Jason, stunning him with the flash before he can swing his machete as Frank rolls back. Jason shakes his head to reorient himself as Frank grabs a spiked bat as Jason walks over slowly. Jason slashes towards Frank, who rolls to the side and swings his bat at Jason, hitting it on his head. The bat shatters against Jason's head as Jason grabs Frank by the throat and throws him through a wall into a cabin. Jason looks into the dark hole in the cabin as flames light up in the hole. Frank comes charging out wearing a flaming cow skull as he charges at Jason, ramming into him, launching him back against a tree. Jason gets back up and rushes towards Frank and shoulder rams him before slashing his machete at Frank, hitting him in the arm. Frank yells out in pain as he pulls out a flashlight. Jason then rips the machete from Frank's arm and swings it again towards Frank, but this time at his head. Frank swings his flashlight at Jason, turning it on as a laser blade extends out, cutting through Jason's machete and the top of his head. Jason grabs Frank and slams him against a wall and starts punching him in the head repeatedly, and then throws Frank through a cafeteria wall. Jason then walks through the hole in the wall as he hears a slurping noise from the kitchen. Jason walks over to the kitchen only to be met with a sledgehammer with a car battery taped to it to the head, electrocuting Jason, knocking him to the ground. Frank walks over and slams the hammer down on Jason's head, smashing it to pieces. Frank smiles as he takes a picture of Jason's body and walks away as he hears whispering in his head. Frank walks over to Jason, rips his heart out from his body, leaving a bloody hole in Jason's body. Frank then crushes Jason's heart in his hand and walks away, snapping a few more photos of the place before he leaves. Our winner is Frank West. And oh boy, this one's gonna take a bit of explaining, isn't it? So starting off with strength and durability. Jason's strong enough to physically mutilate a human and punch through metal doors, stop cars, and hell, once he destroyed a construction site over time. So this is about small building to building level at absolute best. But Frank has him beat, at least with his best gear he does. You see, when it comes to Frank's physical strength, he can disembowel a person, decapitate people with a kick, and throw steel shells long distances. So in a bare fist fight, Frank should be able to hold his own. But add in their weapons, and oh boy, he can fuck some shit up. Like with his exosuit that can casually launch cars with about a 2 tons of punching force, and his better weapons have shown the strength to demolish buildings, and even larger buildings. So we know that, and we've also seen him take hits from these things. So Frank's at about a large building level of strength and durability with his absolute best gear. So Frank does edge out in strength and durability. What about speed then? Well, Jason's actually incredibly fast for a horror movie villain. He's blitz-trained soldiers and dodge bullets from a helicopter, and he can even teleport short distances. But Frank can dodge bullets as well as missiles, lightning, and lasers. So he outclasses Jason's speed by a long shot. Like, he'll have no problem avoiding Jason for most of this fight, and he'll have no problem landing his hits either. But what about Jason's heart hypnotism thing, right? Well, that should probably be a problem for Frank. Well, Frank has been a zombie before. Difference is, he was fully aware of his actions and could control himself. So it's more than likely he could resist Jason's heart hypnotism, and even if he did eat the heart, it's more than likely that he could actually, well, control himself. So there's no way for Jason to cheat himself into victory either. Now, let's give Jason the benefit of the doubt, and we'll count his Mortal Kombat X appearance, right? He beats Liu Kang in that. That's actually a hell of a feat. But you know what? Let's take it a step beyond, and you'll see why I'm doing this exaggeration in a second. Let's say he beat unrestricted Shao Kahn, which he didn't. He does not beat unrestricted Shao Kahn in the game, but let's just say he did for the benefit of the doubt. That would be a planet-level feat, and that would make him far above anything that a canon Frank West has pulled off. But if we count non-canon stuff for Jason, then we have to do the same for Frank, right? And in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Frank West and Iron Man beat Thanos. And if you want to say it's an outlier and stupid, well, how about in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where there's an ending where Frank West beats Galactus? I promise you, Galactus and Thanos are far above unrestricted Shao Kahn. No matter which way you slash it, I need to stop with these bad puns. Jason's simply outclassed in every way, canon and non-canon and all stats. Looks like Jason was left dead with no chance of rising. Oh god, these are fucking awful. Our winner is Frank West. Alright, before I announce the next fight, I do have something I want to ask. I came up with this idea when working on Frank West versus Jason. How would you guys like to see a team match between paranormal characters like Jason, Pennywise, Slender Man, Freddy Krueger, and the people who fight those kind of things? So Frank West, Dipper Pines, Ash Williams. I don't know exactly who the roster would be, so if you would like to see it, comment down below and let me know who you think should be on each side. Next time on Combo Breaker. Fair warning, I couldn't get funny dialogue for one of these characters, so here's a short little mini 40-second trailer thing. That should tell you who the next fighters are. Okay, I'm so sorry for using that music. But with the name of the trailer and everything that I did originally, I mean, I couldn't resist using that music. Just honestly. Alright, our next fight, as you probably saw, is Steven Universe versus Ness. First of all, let me thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and share this to any friends you know who like versus debates. And, tell me what you think of the next match. Give me your predictions, maybe suggest matches in the comments, and they might happen.